So hello, and welcome to today's live stream about the magic of MIDI, or, controlling stuff. Thank you to everybody who's checked out the latest firmware that we released last week, the end of last week. There's lots of updates as mentioned. The new Spotlight stuff, the new reverb, cabs, browser, amps, lots of other fixes, and lots of fixes to MIDI. Today I'll be showing some of how to do stuff with MIDI. We get a lot of questions around MIDI. So what is MIDI? It's a way of different musical instruments to talk to each other. So you can, you can send notes to something else, to play a particular note, to control one synthesizer from a keyboard or something like that, or you can change presets or programs, depending on what you want to call them, and you can change any of the knobs, the controls. So we're going to, there's also been quite a lot of, I just got distracted, but there's also been quite a lot of updates, feedback about the latest update. I am going to look into improving the new search thing for searching through modules and adding, when you're loading a preset or when you're adding a new module. Some people have said that they liked some features of the previous way we did it. Some people like the new way. We're going to try and combine some features of both. If there is any other feedback about ways you think it could be improved, we can, of course, try and add them in. We are always trying to improve thingies. If you like it or hate it, please tell us about it. And we will always continue to attempt to improve things. Anyway, back to the MIDI stuff. So, you can basically send controls from things to things. So here we have two of our MIDI-capable pedals. All of our stuff, Hector, Beebo, and Flat 5, and the Josh Smith Flat 5, all of them can do things with MIDI. On Flat 5, all of the controls that you can see, actually, all the controls full stop, are controllable from MIDI. So you can turn on and off channels, you can change the sliders, you can change presets, you can change which diode is active. All of that stuff is controllable through MIDI. The MIDI implementation is extensive and a little bit complicated, so we can show a bit of that. But Flat 5 is also really handy for explaining how to do it from Beebo, because one of the nice things about Flat 5, as you can see, is when I change stuff on it, it's very visual. You just, change stuff and you get, all this pretty stuff is visible. So that means we can easily see what's going on. Because one of the ideas with Flat 5 is that when you're on stage and you want to change a slider or something, you want to be able to easily see that from a distance away. But when you change presets under MIDI, you can actually see them change because you'll see the sliders change. Whereas if you're using a pedal that's just got knobs and they're not motorized or anything, then when you change presets, the knobs no longer reflect reality. When you've changed from MIDI, if the knobs are just in a fixed position, they no longer reflect what they're actually set to. So that's why it's easy to show this on Flat 5. So we'll be showing a few things. So in preparation for the MIDI stuff, I sat around trying a few things, and I realized there was a module that we should have that we didn't, that would have made life easier. So I wrote it. So there is now a new module that isn't in the firmware we released last week. Will be in the next one. It's a constantly evolving thing. And I wrote it because I wanted it. Mostly, because it does make stuff nicer. So I'll show that off today as well, and we'll explain the basics. Splatter just sending the question. I have not, but yeah, we're always, there's a bunch of really cool brands that we might, we'd always be interested in doing stuff with. So yeah, we'll start off. So I'll show you how to control Flat 5 from Beebo, and in that way I'll show you how to control stuff from Beebo and how to control Flat 5. We'll also show the stuff we probably showed before about how to change presets on both of them from MIDI, how to bind stuff on Beebo and MIDI. So I'll start off with some of the basics. So to change a preset on Flat 5, you just send these presets up here. You just send the preset number, a program change message it's called. So there is this module here that I've just written called MIDI PC. Now if we connect this little module here out to the output here with our little fingers, there we go. You can choose a channel. Oh, the way to set the channel on this guy is that you mash this button until it lights up at the top. How many times do you need to mash the button? Just mash it until it lights up at the top. It's 4, but just mash it until they light up. And you see the pretty lights up the top. If you press one of them, that will set your MIDI channel. So we've just pressed 1, and now we are set to MIDI channel 1. That's how you set the MIDI channel on the Flat 5. So yeah, we've set our MIDI channel here, and then program change number. We count from 0. I'll double check whether everything else counts from 0 or 1. Some stuff is all like channels are usually counted from 1, but things like CCs are always counted from 0. So program changes I feel like should be the same as CC, so they're counted from 0. So, but I don't know if everybody else does that. If you're trying to set something and then they don't count from 0, like they do with CCs, you might have to change it by 1 and send a 1 instead of a 0. Either way, I might change this depending on how I look at the other things. I have to remember I have to check with everything else whether it counts from 0 or 1. So this might change, but at the moment it's this way. So if I add a little foot switch in here, using our new fancy adding mechanism, I go foot, and I send value out, and I set up trigger. Now when I press this one, we can go through the foot switches. You see, we can go through the presets. You can see when I pressed it, I went through presets there. And I can add another foot switch, or probably we'll add B. We'll connect that value to down. And we can go up or down through the presets, and you can see them changing over on Flat 5 here. Yeah, okay, Matt says it's 0. I thought it was, but CCs are definitely always counted from 0, so I'm pretty sure PCs should be as well. But on the off chance that they count from 1 on some platforms, just remember, we count from 0 at the moment. So yeah, you could see me changing what's happening over here. I should have probably bound them the other way around, but you get the gist. There's also one that says set there. And if you send the set one, you can just press a button to go to a particular preset on Flat 5. So say we go up a few, and then if I disconnect B from down and instead connect it up to set, I can press it and we'll jump straight to 1. There we go. So yeah, so that's for sending program changes to flat 5. So flat 5, you just set program changes like this. If you want to go to the second bank or the higher banks, you just send the program change number that goes up to that wraps around. So I'll try this with numbers. So this one, the 6th preset here, counting from 0, will be 5, right? So if we actually send a program change number of 6, we'll end up in bank 2 preset 1, because we've got banks. So that's how you'll go through the bank. So just remember that it's this number, and with the bank combined. So program changes on. So that's how to do program changes from Beebo, sending programming changes to control flat 5. How about if we want to change presets on flat 5 from another controller? Well, there's this thing called set list, which we've talked about before. This is the presets I've got in my set list at the moment. My employee Joe, who is the wonderful person that does lots of the pretty design here, keeps complaining about the look of set lists, and I will fix it at some point. It's currently a bit ugly. So this number along here is the number in the set list, but it's also what program change number you need to send to get that preset. So if you want to send program change number 5, you just add another one onto this list, and then you can put whichever you want, what preset you want in there. So right now, if I send program change 1, I'll get that add an echo oil can preset up. And that's, so yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You just set that up. You will need to send programming changes on a particular MIDI channel. Just so, like I set the MIDI channel on flat 5 over here, there is MIDI channel here in Beebo. So you have to set them, and then you just send it what's it called? Program change. So that's program changes, how to send a program change to this, and how to get controlled by a programming change to change presets on Beebo. I think I might add something to this. I only just did this module, but I think I might add something to this program change module so that you can get it to send a program change if you want when our preset is loaded. So then you could load a preset on Beebo and it could automatically send program changes out to your other pedals to set them to the right preset. I think that could be cute. Yeah, so that's how you send program changes out now. Before that, you could either there was you could the way to be controlled was the same, but the way to send program changes before, the only program change options was this map thing. No, sorry, this. There's one. There's note to program change. Basically, you'd have to convert. Yeah, this one, MIDI note to program. That was the only way to send program changes before, which was, fiddly. So this way is much more straightforward. So that's why, yeah, before it wasn't really easy to do. Yes, thank you for the kind things about enjoying the new firmware. Yeah, I'm happy that it's, it's good. Yeah, happy to hear that the amps are nice sounding as well. Yeah. So, sending program changes. Now, the next thing we'll do is CCs. So we've said program change messages. Now we'll do CCs. Well, that's fine. We'll just disconnect this guy, and we'll add a so CCs are what we want now. Go for control change. That works better if you type it twice. CCs. So we want this. We want to have the CV to MIDI CC module. So, I should show that too. All right. I'll show both directions. So I have a keyboard lurking off to the side. So right now I'm plugged out of Beebo into flat 5 with 3.5mm, the normal TRS jacks. For reference, they are these kind of plugs. They're just normal TRS ones. You don't have to use anything fancy. You can, if you've got a recent Beebo and a recent flat 5, you can just plug them in directly with just any old 3.5mm TRS cable. You can get pretty ones. I have some of these lovely ones from Electron that are very nice, 3.5mm cables, but any old 3.5mm cable is fine. There isn't anything magical about. There aren't MIDI 3.5mm cables. They're just normal 3.5mm cables. They're all the same. You can also get obviously adapters, which I don't have one visible. There's probably one around here. I usually have 10 million of them lurking. There are also adapters from the 5-pin DIN MIDI, which is the chunky plugs, to 3.5mm. So you can use those ones as well. But I also currently have, you'll see that I've got something plugged into USB here. I also have a keyboard plugged in over USB, like a MIDI controller keyboard, which has got knobs and sliders and things like that. If you add just any module, here I've added a sum, you can do the normal MIDI learn thing here and press MIDI there, and then see, I just turning that knob, it now says I'm sending on MIDI channel 6 and I'm sending CC85. And so you can see the number change here, and now if we go out, you'll see this changing when I send MIDI to it. So I'm now remote controlling that from that knob. So that's how you do CC learn. On flat 5, obviously all the CCs are fixed. So you have to, each of the different CCs does a particular thing. So the manual explains what every CC is. There's the only really complicated thing for flat 5 is that because there's these two different, when you are in this preset, see how there's two different sides to a preset, the different colored ones, the primary and the secondary side of a preset. So they're the two lots of values for channel B. They have different. You can send a CC that either controls the active side or side A or side 1 or side 2 of channel B. So there are 3 different CCs. For instance, the high pass filter has 3 different CCs, depending on whether you want to control the current side or side 1 or side 2. Which is really only if you want to use blends. That's when you want to do that. But that's, we just wanted to give it as much control as possible. If you're not doing anything complicated, you kind of just use current side, which is the first one listed. But if you want to do something complicated, it is all, of course, possible, because that's kind of our thing. We like to make things, flexible. Now I showed how to learn one on this. So I'll show how to control this one, the flat 5, from Beebo. So we'll send out a MIDI CC now. So what we'll do, so I'm going to use a CV to MIDI CC. So I'm going to grab a step sequencer, We'll grab one of those. The step sequencer, I'll use the internal control one. And I will connect that up to my CV to MIDI CC, and I'll draw a squiggle. and I'll connect this one out. So we set our channel to 1 on flat 5, and we might set out, we'll start with the nicest and easiest one of these, which is 1, CC number 1. Remember, if you want to jump to a specific number for any of these things, you can use the numpad here as well. So I've chosen CC number 1 from here. And now, if I start running the step sequencer, you'll see what it's doing fancy things over here. And what is this fancy thing, you say? Well, it's blend. So see how this one's changing? So CC1 is often connected to the mod wheel on a keyboard, and we've got it set here up here to control the blend between the two presets. So you can see that it's changing multiple sliders at once. I can change this slider as well. And now, see all those things? Everything's changing kind of at once on this preset, which is kind of fun. So yeah, you can set that up to blend in different ways. I'll grab some higher values in there as well, and some lower ones. So yeah, that's now blending, changing the preset blend, so all of these different parts on flat 5 via Beebo. So that's the same for any CC that you want to control. So yeah, that's a really powerful technique, and you can hopefully see all those lights and things changing. Let's pull this one right down on this side. Yeah, look at all those things happening. Yeah, so this one, sending out different values and controlling over here. Obviously, this is, we've got a CV to CC controller there. So any of the modules that send out CVs can be converted to a MIDI CC. So that means if you want to have the chaos controller, if you want to have some of the knobs on one of your other pedals can just randomly vary a little bit, you can control them via the chaos controller, and you can just set it to have a tiny bit of a spread, and you can have just a little bit of variation from your other pedals continuously, and that's might be really interesting. You can of course connect an LFO up to something. You can send you can just connect it up to a foot switch to change particular values. Maybe you've got a pedal that has MIDI control but doesn't have presets. Well, you can set it up so that one of the foot switches sends a value that changes on your other pedal. That's all, pretty straightforward from Beebo. The MIDI, if you've had problems in the past with the CV to MIDI CC module, I did actually notice a little bug that happens in a weird edge case that I've now fixed. So the latest, the firmware that was released last week has that fixed in it. So it should be working more smoothly now. There was an edge case where it, sometimes would think it had already sent a message, and so it wouldn't send it. So yeah, but that's all fancy now. So yeah, you can see it all changing over here on flat 5. So that's how you send MIDI CCs. That's how you send what's called program changes. That's how you learn. So you've seen how to do learning, like you can learn something here. Yeah, you saw that I learned a sum here. So remember, if you want to something to be controlled from a CV, you can just learn a sum and then send out a CV from that. Or there are other options as well, like the CC to CV module. You very rarely need to use that. Usually just use learn. Learn a parameter. So on a delay or something, just learn the parameter you want to control. If it's something where you want to do something weird to the thing, like smooth it or something, then you can learn some, run it into a slew limiter, whatever you want. In case you want to press a button and then on a MIDI controller and have the thing fade in or something like that. That's an option. So yeah, if anybody's got questions about anything, either MIDI related or not MIDI related, feel free to ask them. Obviously, there's a ton of modules in there for doing weird things to MIDI, like transposing, splitting up streams, having multiple bits go, filtering channels, all that stuff. They're all there. Oh yeah. So yes, you can definitely use both the. Right now, yeah, I'm using the TRS MIDI and the USB MIDI. So they're both. They're not individually addressable. Like you can't say I want to send this one to this one and this one to that one. I don't know if that's a thing I should add. Nobody ever really has asked for it, but if somebody does, I'll think about it. So things that are still left to do in MIDI. I haven't shown notes yet. So yeah, this is just contentedly flashing away there. So I might show notes. Sending notes from Beebo out to something. And of course you can send notes into Beebo. Oops, I just flipped the thing. Yeah, you can send notes in and out from Beebo. So we can show that. Yeah, let us show that. I'll just get rid of this one. So yeah, you see that when we're doing it internally, we've got these LFOs here, or squares, and you'll see that it's changing between the same things that we were getting that blend before externally. I'm going to turn those off. And they're the two sides we were blending between before. That one and that one. Yeah, which is cool. Notes. So right now I'm plugged into Flat 5 with my TRS MIDI. I haven't got a splitter or anything plugged in at the moment, so I'm only plugged into one thing. But I can just pull this guy out. And I can plug MIDI into my synth over here. I've got a subharmonicon from the pre-InMusic Moog, which can be controlled from notes from here. So I'm not sure if they'll sound interesting. I'll just check what levels is like here. Yep, so that's my synth plugged in now. Yeah, so I'll just show a controller here. So we'll add. Oh yes, I improved the MIDI out from Strum, so I might show that. Strum. Strum. So Strum has a MIDI out, so it'll send notes. So if we can't disconnect the MIDI out to the MIDI out, because we're not doing any fancy. You could do fancy things like off transpose. That's why MIDI is a signal type, because you might want to do things to the MIDI. So yeah, now that's sending MIDI out to the subharmonicon, and then I can move through the notes of C major there. And of course, this is the what's called strum, so you can. If you want, minors instead, or and sevenths. And yeah, you can see that sending MIDI out from a strum to MIDI notes to a synth is very straightforward. You can, of course, send MIDI notes out from the Chaos controller, or run things through the quantizer. Any of those options. You've got a ton of options. We've shown in previous videos the CV to note module, which can generate MIDI notes. So if you yes, CV to note. This one. You can send out notes as well, and there's so you can use that to send anything from the others. Cool. I don't know what other questions there is with MIDI. So we've done CCs, PCs, and notes. Notes out. Notes in are pretty straightforward, and I've shown that before. You just use so you want to convert from a note to a volt per octave if you want to control any of the internal synths on Beebo or on Hector. It's the same for both. Weird things with TRS MIDI. Nowadays I use the official MIDI standard, which is type A. If you're looking at old names of cables for TRS MIDI. Some pedal companies used to historically use other ones. For instance, Chase Bliss uses a different which thing is on which pin of the three available. So there's on this cable there's a tip, a ring, and a sleeve, right? So you can have different things on the tip and ring. And yeah, previously we had Chase Bliss style, type B cables. We actually had type B. The Chase Bliss style is actually slightly different, but we had type B cables in the very early units of Beebo, because the MIDI standard hadn't come out yet. But when the MIDI standard came out, then I switched to type A. There was a couple of units in the middle where I made a mistake and I had type A in and type B out because I made a mistake. But then they were all fixed. Hector has always been, because it was released after the standard, it's always been type A everything, and Flat 5, because it's newer, is all type A. Oh yeah, so Jordan says that he can control his Eventide stuff with the with Beebo. Yeah, that might be the issue depending on what version, what era Beebo you've got. You might need to swap the polarity. So it's just you need to switch the tip and the ring around. There are a couple of ways to do this. Either you can make a custom cable that switches them around. You can use a 3.5 to RCA and then switch which one of the two RCAs are plugged into the other one. If you have a one that then goes back from RCA to 3.5 mil. It's a bit of a messy way, but it's a possibility to easily check. So yeah, if there are also adapters that have a clicky little thing that lets you choose. But yeah, if you're having trouble, just check the serial number on the back of your Beebo, and there's a list on the FAQ on the website that says which one has which type of MIDI out. So yeah, that's the cabling issue. USB MIDI is obviously, pretty straightforward. The only thing to remember with USB is that Beebo is a host. So that means that controllers, stuff like a keyboard or a thing with knobs or something, can plug into it, but you can't plug it into a computer directly over USB because the computer is a host and Beebo is also a host. And you need, a device and a host, not two hosts. So yeah, don't try and plug your Beebo directly into a computer over USB. You need some thingy in between there. So yeah. Oh, sorry about the brightness. The sun decided to come out. Melbourne weather is a bit exotic. There we go. Yeah, so if anybody's got any other questions about MIDI, feel free to ask in the last minutes here. Otherwise... Yeah. If anybody's got any last minute questions about MIDI, that's the general gist. Otherwise, I'll show you. I don't think we really showed much about what's called the new, what is the word I'm looking for? Spotlight last week. So I'll just show a little bit more of Spotlight as well. So it's not MIDI. Oh yeah, it is a bit MIDI related. Huh? Sometimes I do have relevant content. All right. So we'll add a delay here, and so the way you get into MIDI Learn, there's also a thing here that says expose to Spotlight. And I'll expose tone to Spotlight as well, just so we've got a couple of things. And I'll grab something else in, like this bit crusher. And I'm not connecting these up to anything because I just want to show you the thing. All right, expose that to Spotlight. Now, if we jump into Spotlight, we'll see we have these things in here. We can now force that to be bound onto a particular knob. So now when I change this knob is still changing this one up here, whereas this knob is still live, like it'll just jump to whatever you're wanting it to, whatever you've recently touched. I can force the left knob to be assigned to something as well, and now if I go here, neither knob is controlling that because the knobs are controlling the other things. But we can also assign things like tone to, or feedback. We can assign that to this XY view. And you'll see here, we've got this XY view where we can drag stuff around on an XY control. And you'll see their values changing over here. If you press on it here, you can see it's changing what it's assigned to, and now it's not assigned, and this one's assigned. You can see the circles change when there's things assigned. So if I turn these ones off, no circles, now I've got to assign to X, and I'll assign that to Y. And you can see them changing. So yeah, and the bit in the new Spotlight view that is related to MIDI is if you go in here, you can see in MIDI assignments, here, you can see it says effects sum, parameter B, parameter B, channel 6, CC85. So that's what things are assigned to MIDI in this preset. So there's a big list of everything that's assigned to MIDI. In case you load up a preset and you're like, there's somebody else's preset, you don't know what's assigned to what, you can go in here and have a look in your settings. There's two ways to get to that. When you're in Spotlight, if you click this one, you also get to there. Yeah, which is pretty cute. So just giving you more control options. These knob assignments, they now lock outside. Like if you've locked something to a knob with the knob assignment in here, if you go in somewhere else and we change warp here, you'll notice, see, I've got feedback still bound because I bound it in the knob assignment. So warp is now not controlled over the knobs. And this one is not controlling anything over here because it's bound to the bits in the bit crusher. Yeah, so that's a little bit about the about MIDI. Hopefully that answers most of the basic questions. Yeah, I showed how to bind something in Flat 5. Yeah, if you want to look at all of the different CCs that you can send, just look at the list. I still have that step sequencer here. That new PC module, program change, that'll be in the next firmware, so that's not in the current one. So if you're looking for it, it's not there yet. But this one is here at the moment. And so yeah, before I was showing CC number 1. That's a bit too fine. So on channel 1, and so this one can send things to this guy. Except it's not doing anything anymore because I have to plug it back in. There we go. Now it is changing things on this guy again. You'll notice that this is changing because it's blending between those presets. And if we go to a different preset, you'll see it's, we're blending over here. Blending our frequencies there. But yeah, you can, there's a lot of options. Like CC30. Yeah, you see I can change modes, I can change this, we've got all of the different parameters you can control are controllable over MIDI. So you can see I'm controlling this high pass filter now. I'm just jumping through the different settings for high pass filter, depending on that one. So yeah, just look in the list of all the manual for Flat 5 and you'll see all the different CCs you can send. So you can control diodes and stuff as well. So yeah, I'll just check if anybody has any last minute questions. Otherwise, that will probably be the end of this week. Cool. Yeah, any last minute questions? Of course, yeah, if you want to set a number in directly, you can use this interface. So you can just delete, back these off and say 38, submit. Things like that are pretty, easy. And now you'll see when I have A on, I'm now controlling which diode I've got set over MIDI. So as we go, it'll be continuously changing that diode that's set. Which is pretty cool. Obviously this isn't like blending or anything like that because now we get everybody. All right. Yeah, so you can see all of that. Pretty straightforward. Everything controllable. And yeah, if you've got any questions, always feel free to email them through or ask us on the social thingies on Instagram or Facebook or any of the others. Thank you again for watching this live stream, and yeah, I will see you anon. So, thanks.